4 topics and then open the floor up. Each person will present their own topic, those being the use of communities within a corporation, technology, large communities, and forums. So Patrick, since you're up there, if you wanted to go first with the topic you wanted to talk about.
Sure, we can do that, even though it was 4th on the list of notes. All right, so I was put up here, or at least I was tasked with saying that forums are dead, discuss. So I deal with this kind of odd, weird attitude towards quote-unquote forums. And, it really sprang up when I was answering questions on Quora, where like 5 times when I first joined the community over there, I answered the question essentially, are forums dead? Will Quora replace forums? Why are forums so awful? I just had to continue giving the same answers, which is essentially that forums are everywhere. Threaded text-based conversation is everywhere, and it's an important part of most meaningful social platforms. So going back to when I started, which was about 12 years ago, the tools were very different. We didn't have most platforms that you now have. There were a few different software options, mostly forum software. PHPBB was brand new, vBulletin brand new. UBB, Ultimate Bulletin Board, was kind of the established player at that time. And it was a lot different world. So for me, having been around for that period of time, all the different platforms sort of relate to one another and learn from one another and then use each other to improve. And really, I view it as a good thing, and I think that we should be thankful that we have so many options, so many good options, versus what we had when I started, and not view it so much as a competition between, Facebook replaces this, Twitter replaces this, or vice versa. We have a lot of platforms and a lot of tools, and it all depends on what your individual needs are, what you're looking to accomplish, and that'll help you decide what is best for you. And I think we're going to have a little discussion on where you can actually build a community. And before we start that, I did want to say that even though I am often associated with forums, I love everybody. I love Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, Google+, Pinterest. I love everybody. And I think there's opportunities to build a meaningful community on really any social platform, whether it be one of the buzz ones that everyone's talking about right now, or it be a niche community where there is a deep level of engagement where people are engaging around a specific topic or interest that may be related to you or your brand. And want to allow other people to talk if they have any thoughts. Keep in mind I cannot see anything, so I'm not getting any feedback. I'm looking at the camera, so please feel free to chime in.
Thank you. We heard you loud and clear. Do you guys have any responses?
For us, our 3 biggest clients still use forums, which is nice, actually, because we come from a forum background, so we started 10 years ago. Forums for Corrie and Emmerdale, like I mentioned earlier. Oh, sorry. Say it again. So our 3 biggest clients are still forum-based, which is nice. We started 10 years ago looking after the forums for Coronation Street and Emmerdale and other ITV-related stuff. So it's nice to see that sort of technology is still around 10 years on, still going strong. And in fact, we're seeing clients come back to forums from other social places as well because they want to use forums for customer service. So for us, it's great. It's a nice community feel within forums. Sometimes social can feel a bit transient. So it's nice to still have that sort of technology.
I guess the benefit too with driving to a forum rather than it being on social is it's sort of hidden away a little bit. You don't have that kind of problem with, like, say, Argos or something, where you're constantly getting kind of customer service, replying immediately and getting back to them really quickly. I think that's another reason that forums are kind of beneficial in terms of the kind of outward-facing.
Yes, slightly easier to manage in that regard.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw the Inc. 500 study that just came out here in the U.S. from, I forget the university, but Dr. Barnes is the name of the person who's conducted it for 4 or 5 years. And forum use is down with Inc. 500 companies, but I'm having the conversation with her that it's becoming tougher and tougher to label this as forums because what people have are hosted community platforms, and forums are an important part of them. But there's this difference between these spaces where you don't control as much versus the spaces where you do control a lot. So for example, Facebook, Twitter, very limited on Facebook as far as what you can do. You cannot export those members. You can't convert those likes to somewhere else. You were stuck in Facebook. Twitter you have even less management authority, even less ability to use the data. So when you drive people to your own hosted community, you have that much more power and authority and access to the information and data that you can then use to go deeper, to engage deeper, and to offer more a better experience.
So what I was just going to say is it's very disconcerting. I've been a very big fan of Patrick's books. It's quite disconcerting having him inside my head and right behind me. But my viewpoint is that although I don't think forums deserve to die, I think but they are dying off. And we're seeing, I think it's very much from the consumer's point of view, branded forums, I think, are dying off, mainly because of very lazy consumers. I mean, why go and dig out a forum, look for it on a site when you can stay on Facebook or just get on Twitter and complain about something and the brand is coming to you? So I think that this will have a big effect on forums, and in comparison to what Don was saying, a lot of our clients are moving away from forums, and almost to the point where people sort of go, it's a bit 1995, isn't it? So it's chasing the shiny thing, but unfortunately that probably will have a big impact on the future forums.
Tamara, when you say moving away from forums, do you mean moving away from hosted platforms completely? Like, are they not choosing to host and manage hands-on their own community spaces, and instead then relying fully on third parties like Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms where you essentially are an account holder on someone else's space?
Yes. Sorry, no. To expand on that, I mean, we're mainly working with large brands, and they're seeing the benefit of why invest in a forum when we can have Facebook, Twitter, we can have buzz monitoring, we can get excited about Pinterest and Tumblr instead. So yes, I'm definitely seeing that people are making choices not to invest in forums.
Can we bring someone in from the audience? Jules, can we pick on you? Gearsluts how long's Gearsluts been going now? 10 years.
Hey, Jules.
And what's your particular views in terms of moving towards social? I guess you're not going to dump forums quickly, but do you see a move to going towards more social platforms for you?
Yeah, I'm watching tech pundits like a hawk. I load the dishwasher to Tech Weekly by Leo Laporte. I'm on the Guardian Tech Weekly. I'm a sponge soaking in information with one primary objective. I don't want to hear forums, they're over, because that might kill my livelihood. So I'm keeping an eye on it. So far, I don't feel under threat. But I'm a special interest forum, and I'm not a brand, so it's a special topic, special interest forum. So I think I'm okay. I was a bit worried about Quora. I inquired about a white label version of Quora. They never got back to me. I don't know if they're doing them. But so I think forum runners do have to keep their finger on the pulse of new technological advancements that could be a risk if they want to continue with forums. And people representing brands obviously have to keep an eye on the, follow the money. So.
And I think, just to clarify, I don't want to see the death of forums, because the communities that you get, I really don't.
Stop that!
the community, the fact that people build relationships and actually talk to each other, you don't get the same thing on Facebook in a brand. People talk to a brand, but they would rarely speak to each other. I mean, you might get a little bit of crossover, but it's a very, very different environment. But I think it's about maybe calling it a different type of community. Maybe it's just about a semantic thing, that we should be talking about niche networks instead, because that's really exciting again.
Right, and I think it's good to note the kind of difference that Jules made, which is the coverage of a topic or an interest, and then the coverage of a brand. Now, it's natural over time that these tools will diversify, that less people will use this tool, more people will use this tool, and it'll even out. So I don't view it as a good or bad thing that some brands move away from forums. It just might not make sense for their particular brand and community. But Facebook doesn't eliminate the need for deeper discussion and engagement around a topic like the one Jules manages. And so, I like to say I beat Facebook at the martial arts every day, because I run a martial arts community. And if you want to discuss the martial arts, you're not going to go to Facebook and search for some Facebook group. You're going to come to my community or another community that is focused at that topic and have, deep and meaningful discussion. So there are people who seek that out. There are people who want that. And then, a site like Facebook services different needs, and brands have different goals. I mean, a brand just might want to connect with the people who mention them, or put out short updates, and maybe there isn't the need for a deep discussion around that brand. So, it's all good, it's all healthy, nothing's dying, but I think it's just sort of a natural transition that we're seeing, and it's important to differentiate between, again, those topic communities and then those brand kind of community social marketing efforts.
I think that answer was a great transition into the next topic as well that Tamara has about the role of communities within an organization.
Sure. So I've been running e-moderation for 10 years now. We've seen a lot of change. I mean, it has moved from moderation, community management. It's much more about, now it takes in elements of customer service, but also we're seeing a real increase of trying to help brands advise them on how to deal with a social media crisis, for example, which one could argue that that's actually coming much more from perhaps a PR angle than anything else. And I think I do sort of see on eMint and on Twitter, that there are arguments about community managers and social media managers. I think what's happening, and again talking purely from a brand perspective, is that community managers, there's never been a better time to be a community manager, and suddenly everyone is talking about, community managers, let's have one of those. Agencies are getting them in, brands are sort of bring them in-house, but they're also outsourcing other things. I think the key thing is that whereas community managers used to have to do a little bit of everything, because there's so much to do now, we are seeing different specialities again. So it's more about being part of an industry and really being able to pull all of these different things together. So customer service, crisis management, building communities, marketing, product development, they're all part of the new community manager's job now. Discuss.
Well, so I'll say that I believe community manager is a real role in and of itself. Managing communities of people is a role. We see a lot of community managers that don't really do what I would term as community management. I mean, they're more public faces. Maybe they manage a Twitter account. I mean, there's customer service manager, there's PR manager, and there's community manager. And I believe in that role and that it does exist and that it is not a role that you throw a million things into. I see some community manager roles advertised where it's essentially you're the copywriter for the company. And I'm like, why? That's a specific role. It's not, and managing communities is a different skill. And then I've seen roles advertised where it was online community manager. You must have email marketing experience. You must have search engine marketing experience. You must not have community management experience. So I'm thinking, well, that's a marketing role. Just call it what it is. Like, that's a defined role in the company. And I think some companies are just saying, you know what, let's save money. Let's just hire one guy and pay him $50,000 a year and, good luck to him. But really, I do believe it is a role, and I do believe that it is important and that it should exist on its own rather than being assimilated into some marketing or PR position.
Patrick, can I ask you, if you were doing what you do within social platforms, would you change that title to social media manager, or would you still think of it as a community?
So that's a tough one, community manager versus social media manager. I mean, when the Dell, they had the Dell Community Manager Day thing recently, and that was a topic on there, and some people feel it's kind of semantical. Some people feel that, I made the case that maybe for some, a social media manager is more tools focused and a community manager is more community focused. In other words, it's in the title. More people focused and tool and platform agnostic, not really tied to anything in particular, just managing the communities of people wherever they are as part of the larger community strategy for the company. Now, I mean, I don't know, whatever you call it, I guess it is what it is, but for me, a community manager is someone who manages communities of people who are engaging around a brand, and it goes beyond just responding or customer service. It's about managing the space, policies, moderation, highlighting great content, engaging with the community, and fostering meaningful discussion.
I absolutely agree, and obviously this is what my company does. What I think is interesting though is it possible to treat it as a discipline and have other people learn from community managers? So are we saying that customer service always have to stay in customer service, or could they not be trained on how to do customer service in a more community management way?
But I guess for me that's always the complicated thing, is that increasingly community management has its foot in so many different doors, and it's a matter, and I think really effective community managers work very well with different departments, but often, particularly with kind of customer service, I mean, personally my role doesn't involve a lot of that, but previous roles I've worked in, sometimes you're kind of working with customer service, and I totally agree. I think there's definitely ways for customer service to kind of get better trained in terms of using social. I don't know whether, I mean, particularly for me on Facebook, I'm always seeing brands having difficulty, responding to users in a way that a community manager perhaps might not have the same problems, I guess. And maybe that's just an educational process, and people kind of stepping out of these very rigid roles. We're lucky in that our roles are very, very varied, I think, and perhaps some other departments, I'm thinking of like marketing departments I've worked with, and they can't see the sort of, they're happy to hand over all of their social to the community manager rather than having a little bit of hand in that too, I think, which could mean that everyone works together better, I think, sometimes on a brand.
Okay. I think next up we have Dom in your topic of technology.
Yes, so this has been covered quite a few times today. So as someone, I'm fascinated by technology, bit of a nerd in that sense. But also part of my role is making sure that social media is as effective as possible, both for our clients, but also as a company, making sure that how we do it is as effective as possible. So I think over the last 10 years or so, we've probably worked on over 100 different tools, social platforms, forums, blogs, bespoke things, off-the-shelf applications. And I think what I want to bring to the panel is just the subject of automation and intelligent tools. Now, it makes a lot of sense in terms of what's been talked about today with the triage aspects and the prioritization. I think that's almost a given now. We see community management and moderation moving towards a more sort of integrated community management approach, something I sort of talked about earlier. I'd be foolish to replace our moderators with technology, of course. But I think the bit that I'm interested to know is, will highly skilled community managers, are they threatened? Do they feel threatened by the tools that the guys up there, hello Chris, that they offer? Fantastic tools, very advanced tools. So community managers are going to be threatened by that. And perhaps what do brands feel about this stuff? Do they want to put their brands in the hands of automated tools? Here we go.
Well, I think there's plenty of room for automated tools. I think what it is it's important to recognize the tasks where automated tools can exceed. So I was just talking, I was just at the CNN offices here in Atlanta a couple days ago to talk about online community management, and I was talking with the people who run some of their community stuff, and they do something that's smart, of course, and that's they kind of farm out the basic moderation tasks, identifying spam, porn, probably racist comments and whatnot, stuff that is easy to detect, I should say. And they farm that out, or they use an automated tool that kind of filters that out, and then they review that process. But they themselves, the people that are ingrained in the brand, they're every day dealing with people, building community. They then can make the more difficult, nuanced decisions that come up when you're managing a community. So I think that is where automation really exceeds, is in dealing with kind of the basic bottom of the barrel tasks that we have to do every day that are highly repetitive, that someone either can be trained to do, or it can be handed over to a tool. I mean, I've helped create some plugins for one of the platforms I use, which is PHPBB, and I can't program, so I take absolutely no credit there. But the idea for different tools, like for example with some profanity, we will tell the user, like, this isn't appropriate here, here's your post, please edit it. And we've had success with that. Like, I know some people probably wouldn't like that. They might feel that it tells people, gives people something to abuse or whatever, but in my spaces, it actually has lowered a lot of the moderation time, a lot of the time that we'd spend removing posts and contacting people about using certain terms, and gives them the opportunity to kind of self-police themselves and adjust their posts before they're even posted to the community. So that's an automated thing that happens behind the scenes. Put a lot of thought into that and the messaging behind it, and it works really well. So that's an example of something where automation can work and can help you do your job, but also not damage the community or be a negative overall. Come on, someone.
Chris, can we bring you guys into this? Do you find with the clients that you've got, some brands are just scared of using effectively a machine, obviously very intelligent software that you developed, but is there a scary nature to it for them?
If you could wait for the mic.
I guess there's absolutely a trust factor about whether technology can do a job as good as a person. But the biggest issue is whether you're actually, by spending your time looking at content that really doesn't need someone's high quality time to look at, that you're detracting from the things that you could be doing really good stuff, responding to complaints, publishing posts that really should be at stickies and top of forums and things like that. So, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about it shortly where technology fits in. It's definitely a debate as to how much you automate and whether it's just a triage in or whether you're trying, to be honest, get everything that's not relevant to a high quality community manager out of their queue of work to look at. So that's the debate between the two, to be honest. And my concern from a community manager perspective would be that the more data people have and the more data that community managers looking at that isn't relevant to their role from a high quality perspective, the more it will get outsourced to lower quality people, just because it becomes a numbers game.
Is there anything you guys have tried to automate that didn't work out and you went back to the human personal touch?
Not yet. We tend to, before we automate, we do things for months to see what a person would have done and what technology would have done. So it's not something to just switch on day one and go, let's hope it, let's wait and see. And the other side to automation is, it's really just a layer that's acting on behalf of the community manager. It's not something that's doing stuff on its own, deciding what it's going to do. It's just doing the mass analysis of the data, but based on the rules that a community manager is setting.
I think that's a great point. I think that, the thing is, should community managers fear technology is a great question and thought. For my ends, I think that machines will never be able, robots, technology will never be able to fully replace the community manager and kind of the people aspects and the nuanced details of that role. So for my end, and I think that community managers should embrace the tools and use them to do a better job and recognize what tools are good at and use them for that. So I think that there will be technology and always growing technology, but it's important that there be a real person who then oversees that technology.
Yeah, I think we had this point earlier on. I think we can spot signals, but we're not going to pass the Turing test and have a conversation with someone that's threatening to kill themselves. But you are going to refer that ahead of everything else and say, this looks like someone might be threatening to kill themselves. 99% of the time, it's going to be because Lady Gugu just got taken down, and that's fine. You've got to deal with those false positives. But in a sea of 200,000 comments, where are you going to find those things? So in those cases, no, they're examples of you wouldn't experiment with that kind of thing. You'd refer it straight away to a person. Now, if someone says, the F word and the extreme racism, you could hide that comment or take it down depending on scale. So the nuances are not there, the nuances of the subtle context of understanding what someone's saying. Take a look at Siri, for example. It's been lauded, but it still is very narrow domains that it's working in. It's not having a conversation with you in reality. So,
I think something that the fact that we're talking about filters, it's such a no-brainer. I mean, it just should be such an obvious thing that technology. That's where it's very helpful at just automating a lot of this stuff. There are so many more interesting tools that are coming out that are going to make community managers' jobs very exciting, and I think there's a lot that's going on in buzz monitoring, for example, with the Super Bowl, where they had a whole sort of unit dedicated to spotting what people were saying and then actually engaging with those people in real time, and even helping them find parking spaces. That's a really good use of data, and that can only be done by very, very good sort of buzz monitoring tools. And also, again, in America, I think it's a company in San Francisco called Fobo, where they're actually just taking a slice of the buzz monitoring data and just reflecting it for restaurants and the food industry. So it's just, again, it's coming down to niche, but actually just cutting it out and saying we are only interested in what people are saying about restaurants and food, and then taking it to another level of saying in a particular city, so that you could actually say, what are people saying about Pizza Hut in Chicago? Someone is just about to walk into the restaurant, and you give them a nice big pizza and say, hello, Tamara Littleton, here's your pizza, thank you very much. I mean, again, these are really useful uses of technology. I think filters are just so obvious that everyone should have them ready.
I think there's a shift going on now in communities. In that here we're talking about community manager, singular. That's been the phrase for the whole day. And the filtering tools are tools plural, and they're for a mass of posts and community contribution. But in forum communities, very often you'll have moderators, can be a team of moderators, all personalities within a community, and their job in the past has been to help conversations along, assist the community. This is not the community manager, the moderation team. And traditionally their job's been to catch spam, do things. So I think I'm in a position where I'm looking at tools. I'm finding a lot of them are high priced and enterprise level. They're not scalable. They're not scaled down. They don't charge per action. They don't want to talk to a non-corporation, and that's restrictive.
So, you don't want to talk to me.
Yeah, I'm going to. And so I think, I don't know, what I'm saying is tools, I think there's probably going to be some sort of evolution, like how do you address your moderation team and say, all the stuff you used to catch with profanity and stuff like that, we've dealt with that now. We don't need you for that, And they might be relieved, but I think maybe you could, I'd like to discuss this sort of shift from human moderators catching, the moderation team, catching stuff and tools and how that's evolving. Can you discuss that?
Well, from my point of view, I mean, my team don't really want to sit around just catching, offensive pictures and rude words. They really do have bigger brains than that. And if that could be dealt with by filters, so they can be dealing with suicide, self-harming, and also actually spotting positive things. It's, moderation is so much more than taking care of the negative. It's about spotting the positive and feeding back to the community manager and being part of a team. And so if technology can help us with that, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I agree. We've got a certain percentage that just like doing moderation, and that's their thing. But there's a bigger percentage that want to do more exciting community management stuff, and they've relished the opportunity to get involved with communities and start conversing with people. So like Tamara says, getting rid of that stuff, that's the lower level stuff, would be exciting. For some of the others, they would be a little bit scared. Oh, you're going to start taking away bits of my jobs? There's going to be an element of that. But then showing them that they can use that time for other good stuff is going to be the key there.
So Justin had something as well to weigh in.
To your point and to Tamara's, nobody likes moderating comments. It's a shit job. Pardon my French.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
And so
we need to remove that comment.
delete. So I mean, nobody really loves reading bad comments, and so at Huffington Post we pre-moderate 6 million comments a month with the equivalent of 17 full-time people. Because we've leveraged technology and because we don't need 300 community managers to do that, that's freed up time and budget for those people who would be moderating to go and do the cool stuff that is engaging users and building our social presences and engaging niche communities around all of our verticals. So we've loved having technology help us to make our moderators much more efficient at baselining, so that our community managers can go and actually do the engaging in the building. So sure, some moderators lost their jobs because they became community managers. And I don't think anyone would complain about losing their job upwards.
And I wanted to throw out a comment too. So Brian Kling from Autodesk. So in our company, we're at a challenge right now. I'm trying to structure the next V2 of our community management. advocating a program manager who looks after the business, who looks after the objectives, what's coming up in the future, then having, as there was some discussion earlier, social media manager and a community manager, because I believe that those two roles are separate. They should be separate because the way that they behave, their objectives and their goals are a bit different. And we're also pulling in stakeholders, so we have support communities mostly. So our support staff won't come in full-time, but we have operational level agreements with them that they come in for the technical questions. And I want to build out then the community team to go in and engage with the users. So we're trying to kind of break down some of the different roles and have those assigned around so we can have a more comprehensive strategy. I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
I think we had one more topic that we wanted to discuss, Sarah, on the challenges of community managing a high volume community.
I guess my first thought with this, as I've worked for very big companies and very small companies and with very big communities for me and very small communities, is that it's so sort of subjective how, like Justin's community, for example, it's enormous. And the kind of volume of comments you get. But my kind of first thought was, for me, community management is very sort of personality-led. It's very much about that kind of human touch, that kind of human engagement, and making sure that your community are heard and making sure that you're developing topics that are right for them, you're engaging them in the right way that's appropriate for your audience. And I guess for me, the main problem, the main challenge is always going to be time. It's always going to be making sure that your community is sort of felt listened to. And I think that's where technology for me really comes in, like that kind of moderation, the kind of comparatively low-level moderation. And particularly sentiment analysis. I know there's still an awful lot of debate around the usefulness of that. But I think in terms of the future and how we can kind of analyse topics of conversation, I think the Super Bowl for me was really intriguing. That kind of incredible real-time response is just, for me, that's completely the future of how you're going to go about managing high volume.
Big screens.
Yeah, exactly. To me, that's very, Minority Report, it's very exciting. Yeah. But I guess the main challenge, and I'd love to hear from particularly Justin, you guys about how you go about managing high volume communities with a comparatively small team. The challenge is always going to be maintaining that human touch with such an enormous user base. Even when it becomes kind of self-regulating, self-generating, how can you kind of maintain that one-to-one kind of community manager engagement, I guess, with these enormous communities? That was something that I thought was interesting.
Also, some brands don't want to. We've got some clients that don't actually want to engage. They have huge volumes coming through. They don't want our moderators and community managers to engage. So we have to go through that process trying to get that to happen.
So I used to work for a well-known phone company who, again, they believe in, this was a few years ago, but they believe in putting information out there but not responding at all, which to me is contrary to how community management ought to work. That's just how I personally feel about it. But the challenge for them was always engaging their audience who would still return to the brand time and time again because they were long-term users, whilst not replying to comments, whilst not replying to complaints, whilst allowing complaints to remain on their social channels without responding at all. How do you deal with those do you ever try and work with those brands to suggest that they might want to do engagement? Is that not how your company works?
Yes, yeah, completely. It doesn't always work though. We had one example, and this was a while ago, for a car company, and the users were complaining about delivery times for the car. It was taking too long for the new car to be delivered. And then there are about 1,000 or so posts or some silly number of complaints and things. And we said, you've got to get involved with these. We've got to do something about it. And they said, just delete them. We said, you can't do that.
I can hear the disappointment.
That's awful. And they said, no, it's fine. They'll just call the call centre. No, they've already called the call centre. That's why they're all on here. In the end, that forum died. I don't think there was the will from the company to actually engage with those people. That was a while ago now. It may be different now. But
so I guess for Tamara and Dom, how do you... when a brand comes to you and says, we want this, and how much do you kind of go back with suggestions for how you think they should be running their kind of social and communities and forums? How much kind of have you been able to kind of educate brands in terms of the kind of community work they're doing?
Yeah, I think it's been a sort of a slow process because I think it depends. Sometimes it's coming down from who's found you in the first place, and there was a time when it was coming from perhaps technology, actually, way back in the day. Usually our sort of clients are coming from the marketing divisions now, but we've started to see a sort of a link of people coming from different areas. We spend an awful lot of time working with clients and actually doing amazing sort of workflow presentations that essentially say, you need to talk to that division within your own company and you need to talk to that person. And we often find that when we're having meetings, there are people coming into meetings and sort of say, oh, hello, I haven't met you before. And I think this is where it's an amazing role that, you know, community managers do have to pull all of these parts together. And especially if you throw another sort of layer in, I mean, some of the clients that we work with, we're working in, you know, sort of 40 different languages for them. And to then try and sort of tie up, how does someone in London talk to someone in Spain, and especially when it comes down to an issue that breaks. That's always what brings people together, when there's some sort of social media crisis and you find that you need to get the message out. So it's a slightly sort of different, it's more branded communities, but I think it's all down to getting processes in place, getting communication established and escalation workflows, and just it's an organic thing. I mean, we just work with our clients and we advise them, but sometimes there's delay. It's as people sort of work out what they want, really.
Yeah, and sometimes it depends, the influence you put on it can depend where you are in the process. We had one major client come to us and say, we're launching our major Twitter channel tomorrow. Can you sort it all out for us, please? No, we can't. We need to go through the planning process and do X, Y, and Z stuff. And also working with agencies. Sometimes there's the opportunity to start getting more involved and hopefully influence the process and the structure in a good way, but it doesn't always happen, unfortunately. Patrick.
I had one small point. Now that Dom and Tamara both covered that brand perspective, to your introduction, Sarah, about how do you maintain kind of the human connection with people when you have such a massive community. And I think we covered a little bit of this in Dom's part about technology, because you sort out some of those tasks, some of those minor tasks with technology, but then you're enabled and free to engage with people directly. And this is not a problem that is unique to just high volume communities. I mean, even communities of a moderate size or small communities that are managed by one person, you can't talk to everyone. And I run into people who are like, well, should I wish this person a happy birthday? Because if I do it for them, well, I have to do it for everyone. Will other people be offended? What'll happen to me? And my answer to them is just do something. Do something. Pick something nice and do it. If you see one nice post, one great contribution to your community, thank that person, highlight them publicly or privately. I like the random acts of kindness thing. Send them a quick private message, say, hey, I noticed this. It's excellent. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're not going to be able to thank everyone. You're not going to be able to highlight every single great contribution. But to set aside time to recognize some, to do something, allows you to continue to maintain that human connection with some members of your community, and that goodwill spreads to others. Silence. Yes. Sorry.
We're just all nodding in agreement here, Patrick. It's brilliant.
Yeah, you have a lot of nods over here, and some claps.
Thank you.
So, sorry, can I just jump in? There are a couple of things I think that maybe has not been discussed with respect to forum use. And I mean, one thing, I think it can demonstrate different usage patterns on behalf of those users. I don't think the same users are going to forums for a particular product or entertainment franchise or whatever, as are necessarily, just posting on Facebook or tweeting about stuff. I think, you can probably look at forum people as being the most dedicated potential brand advocates. That's not to say they're not sharing on other channels as well, but the people who are on the forums are possibly on social media. I don't think it's fair to say the people on social media are probably on forums. So, I think it's really important to look at those people if you've got forums already and understand how you can use them to sort of be brand advocates elsewhere. The other thing as well that hasn't really been mentioned is we seem to be focusing on active forum use. If I ever have a problem and I can't get a game to run on my PC or my iPhone just crashed with the latest firmware update, I search Google for this problem. And pretty much every time I'm directed to a forum. I'm not directed to a customer services page. I'm not directed to a Facebook post or a Twitter feed. I'm going and I find the information, and do you know what? For every question you ask, you can almost guarantee someone has already asked that question in a forum. So, I think it's interesting to look at how we present our forums or our forum use, or how we consider it as important for community. But we also have to remember, and I have no stats to kind of draw on, but I'm sure for every one person that posts in a forum, you have people coming in who will probably never join or register or post themselves, but who come in because they've searched for something that's relevant and perhaps they found the answer.
Right. I think great points. I agree with you, and I think it's always interesting to consider the goal of the audience. So, for example, if you are a studio putting out a movie, you're not going to start a forum for that movie. It's more of a short-term campaign, and you're going to engage via established social channels, most likely. But if you are, I hate to just cite support because I think people fall into the trap of thinking forums are just good for support, which is wrong. But support communities are obviously a very easy example. I mean, tech companies, I don't want to say across the board, but it seems that way, have support forums because they recognize the value in not only creating a community for people to engage with them and get answers to their questions, but also to get answers from one another and to serve as sort of a knowledge base for the people who use their products and then search for the questions and find the answers via the forums via people who have already asked them. And yeah, my experience is totally in sync with yours. When I search for a question, I end up in forums. When my computer had trouble a few months ago, I didn't go to, I tried to ask on Twitter, but it's tough with 140 characters and no one really cares all that much. So I went to a tech support forum dedicated to that where people help you out. It's not associated with a brand, it's just a tech community. Posted a question and had this complex problem fixed within a couple of days, and I even kicked a few dollars to the person who helped me as well. So different goals, different objectives. It's good to have options. It's good to have tools to match our goals.
Really great points. Are there any questions from our audience for the panel? There must be some.
Okay. It's me again. So I've got a 10-year legacy technology forum. So, but I'm a bit concerned at the moment that about how to stop it turning into what I call a swirling planet of dust and gas. Right?
Is this Jules again?
Yes.
Okay. I'm like, hey, that description sounds familiar.
Yeah. So as the person across the way said, when he's looking for a technical solution, he might search Google and so forth. So what can happen with, I'm looking for advice here, so there's a point to the ramble. What can happen is that veteran users can think, oh, here's a new question from a newbie. I posted something great about that 4 years ago. I'll be damned if I'm going to spend half an hour typing it all out again. I can't find the hell where it is, so I can't point this newbie to my old post because there's 5 million posts on this forum and I don't know how to track it down. So while they're useful and a Google search can help do things, how can you organize a very large legacy, forum with a lot of data in it? How can you make the veteran posters not feel that their contributions are just lost in there somewhere in the middle of this giant Jupiter-sized planet? There you go.
I don't want to hug the mic, so that's why
He's looking at you, Patrick.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm looking back at a black camera that doesn't like me very much. That's the question, right? And that's tough because we have to accept that on some level our communities are there in a way to answer those repetitive questions, especially tech-focused communities. It's kind of a natural evolution. To stay relevant as a community, you have to have a certain percentage, not a real number, just a certain percentage of veteran members, and then a certain influx of new people to continue to be relevant and have this healthy community. So, my hope would be that people would enter the community who would then want to answer those questions instead of those old veterans. And organizing the data is the challenge. I mean, you can do a lot of things manually, of course. You can organize a knowledge base of the most common questions and include links to them in a sticky thread is a very common low-tech way, but there's other things to do, and I know that you hire programmers, Jules, so you can work with them to come up with something more custom, but it's hard to say beyond giving them powerful search facilities and then grouping some threads by the most popular questions that you receive. What else can you really do? I think that minimizes it, but you have to accept that at the end of the day, you'll have people coming in to answer those questions. And it's an opportunity for you to continue to grow and to build community with new people. So, I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but that's sort of the approach that I would take.
It's how to mine the value of legacy posts. That's the challenge. It's a technical one that I'm working on at the moment. So.
I mean, is there a way to kind of engage some of your longer standing community members into kind of super users? And I mean, are these people who've completely dropped off the forum or people who...
Yeah, I could do that, and I've heard about super users lately, and I definitely want to look at doing that. And also, I think my forum members need to have tools. The tool that I need to design for them is Find My Shit, because you know. We only show 500 search results, and so I think I need more sophisticated Find My Contributions and repurposing them. I think that would be a big deal. So that's my personal question. I'm only coming out with that now if other people are interested in it, I'd like to talk to them. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pick up on the exact same issue really, because from my perspective, I guess the percentage of people viewing forums versus posting on them is absolutely massive in terms of the difference and the value. So I wanted to ask the panel how much active management goes on with creating almost separate threads that have got the answer to a question on based on so many likes and stuff like that, because that for me is the real value between a forum, and a lot of people won't post. We've got probably 35 tech engineers that work for us, and if you ask them a technical question, they will use Google to answer it. And not one of them will ever post a question. They're using other people. So I just want to ask what the process is for putting those to one side. So the same again, really, but just what you actually do about that.
I think one of our most successful ones is probably with Sony, and that's where it's a huge amount of super users basically that have been nurtured over a couple of years. They get free Sony mugs and little stickers and stuff like that. But they're really passionate about what they do. And they sort of organise the community. They help people out. They signpost, really. I suppose that's the sort of thing that would be useful for you, Jules. It's brain power. And it's obviously there's search within there as well, but search is never that great. So yeah, brain power from super users is one of our most popular ways of doing it on Sony anyway.
Yeah, and it's a good point because, like, if you look at, so first, having your content be search engine accessible is a good, important answer to this question also. I know that's easy for a lot of platforms, but not everyone has those search engine friendly URLs and titles and whatnot. If you don't, that helps. But also, look at how, like, a help desk handles those issues. Just kind of a forums are everywhere sort of example is like Zendesk, which is a popular support platform. They're based in California, here in the US, and there are a help desk, right? And if you go to their homepage, you will see generally some common answers and questions, and then usually there's a forum component, a forum-like component where people answer and ask questions. And but they actively curate those popular questions right there on the homepage of the help desk, oftentimes. And so, that's something that I would do proactively, and maybe you empower other people to do that. It has to be people. I mean, you can use technology to say, like, what are the most viewed threads and use that as, as a guiding point maybe, but it's still going to be a human who determines, like, is this the best answer to this question? And then highlighting that and making it an active part of the community that's actively maintained. I mean, we all see communities and forums where, for example, the sticky thread, they do it once and then 5 years later it's never maintained. I think a lot of people are guilty of that because it's a natural thing, but just actively maintaining those areas I think could go a long way as well, whether it be you or someone that you empower.
Curation. Exactly.
Those are all great points. I think that's unfortunately all the time we have for today, but thanks everyone.
So next up is community and marketing session. So will those people please get in place? And thank you very much, panel.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Patrick.
Yeah.